This is Patrick Henry from Quest Fusion and also the publisher of the San Diego Lifestyle, and I'm here today with Amanda Cascadden, the editor of the San Diego Lifestyle, for another edition of Baby Boomers versus Millennials. Our topic today is going to be legalization of marijuana. So just to give you a little bit of background, according to the Huffington Post, attitudes have changed about the legalization of marijuana over the last 10 years. In 2006, only 32% of Americans favored legalization, whereas 60% were opposed to it. In 2016, 53% are in favor and 44% oppose. And how this breaks down by generation, 68% of millennials are in favor of legalizing marijuana. No surprise there. 52% of Gen Xers, 50% of Baby Boomers. However, the silent generation, those that are between the ages of 70 and 87, only 29% of them are in favor of legalizing marijuana. So my parents didn't want me to smoke marijuana as a kid, and they still don't want me to smoke marijuana, or you for that matter. So my attitude around this topic really changed pretty significantly when I watched a documentary done by Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Definitely worth checking out. But it really talked about a lot of the benefits of marijuana relative to medical purposes.
So you
just
used to
fantastic.
Be totally against it.
I was against it, yeah. And I grew up in the generation where, it was marijuana is a gateway drug, and, it's negative and it leads to, higher, whatever it is, crack and heroin and everything like that. I mean, this is what they taught us in school. And, when a teacher teaches that in school, that's what you believe.
And I don't think I got taught anything about it, so I guess there was probably a time after that.
Or you were stoned or asleep during that class. So far in the United States, 4 states have legalized marijuana plus Washington, D.C., and it's on the ballot for 8 additional states this fall, including California, Nevada, Arizona, Maine, Florida, and Amanda and I, both of our home states. I'm from Missouri and Amanda's from Michigan. So in California, it's called Proposition 64. We've done a little bit of the investigation behind this. Not detail, we're not investigative reporters by any means. But the argument against is still the gateway drug argument. Done a little bit of research around this. And the evidence is really mixed around this gateway drug argument. Most heroin users did use pot before they used heroin. No surprise, they've probably pretty much used every drug under the sun based on most of the heroin users that I know, although I don't know a lot of them. However, the majority of pot users don't move on to more progressive drugs. Alcohol and tobacco are as much of a gateway, according to much of the research. Because of the chemical reaction, if you have an addictive personality, and you're going to basically have a reaction to that. So one of the big arguments I think in favor is the legalization is the medical part of it, where last year alone there were over 100,000 documented cases of deaths from prescription medications that treat the same things as marijuana, and there have been no documented cases of deaths from marijuana. The other argument in favor of legalizing marijuana for recreational use is the regulation for safety, being able to collect taxes on it, and less overall substance abuse since marijuana is so much safer. So that's the background. So let's hear from Amanda what her opinions are about this, representing millennials.
Is on the gateway theory.
I think,
a baby boomer.
Yeah, I think the gateway theory is flawed. I think that there's, in all the kind of reading that I've done, and again, I'm by no means a medical expert, but if you have a genetic predisposition for addiction, you have a genetic predisposition for addiction. And that is far more of a factor on whether you are going to become, an alcoholic or a drug addict than whether or not you smoke pot or not. Now, does that mean we should make tobacco and alcohol and marijuana all illegal? Some are legal, some are illegal today. I don't think so. I think that you have to have regulation around those things for safety.
So you don't think that if someone smokes marijuana, they're going to want to smoke crack and cocaine and all that?
No, I don't think the evidence supports that. I think the evidence supports that, if you have an addictive personality and you do those things early in your life, then you have a, what do they call it? The dopamine tolerance is higher. So in order to feel high, you might have to move on to something,
But that other fact that you brought up is really
progressive.
interesting, that almost all the heroin addicts actually smoke marijuana too. So where did they just start smoking marijuana after they started heroin?
No, I think
'cause that's
marijuana.
kinda
I think
interesting.
marijuana is a lot easier to get. There's definitely arguments around it. It's actually probably easier to get than alcohol, in most places. Alcohol, because it's so severely regulated. It's more difficult to get. But
So
if
do
you
you
want
think
to
it
get
will be
high,
like that if we regulate it? Do you think it will be just as hard for people to get marijuana?
well, I think if you look at California today, in terms of the state has already legalized medical marijuana. It's relatively easy to get. You have to go get your prescription and you get your card, and then you go to a distributor, and it's pretty straightforward. I think there's probably, in the event that it's legalized for kind of all purposes, including recreational use, it's going to be even more easy to get, like liquor stores and things like that. Maybe even easier to get based on kind of the current law that's being proposed. So,
And do you think that all baby boomers have watched the Sanjay Gupta thing and are informed now, or do you think that they're just not that informed, so you think they are pretty anti-marijuana?
well, according to the statistics, 50% of baby boomers are against, and 50% of baby boomers are for. So whether they watch the Sanjay Gupta, documentary or not, they might still be opposed to it, or they might be opposed to it for recreational use and just okay with it for medicinal purposes. So, I'm definitely an advocate of legalization of marijuana for medical purposes. For recreational purposes, I'm kind of indifferent. I don't smoke pot, so it's like I'm fine without it. But so I
If
don't.
it was legal and it was like cigarettes or pot, what do you want to buy today? I mean, you might have an option, and therefore more baby boomers especially might finally decide, maybe I'm going to try
Yeah, if
this
it's legal, some people will
instead.
not do things because it's illegal. So maybe there are people that want to smoke pot that would if it were legal. I'm not in that group. So I think
But you think
it's just
baby
like I think it's
boomers
just like
generally-
it's like alcohol. If you show up at work, what I care about is people showing up at work stoned. If you show up at work stoned, there's a problem.
Yeah.
If you show up at work drunk, there's a problem.
And I've talked to people that are
So-
nurses and things like that say it doesn't matter if it gets legalized, they're not going to let us smoke anyways. So if you do have to test or something for a job like that it really doesn't matter if it's legal or not. You still can't use it. Just
Yeah,
like alcohol.
it's a corporate.
If it's alcohol's in your
that's a-
bloodstream, you obviously can't be at work. So
Yeah. So to me, it's not that I don't care. It's more that I'm somewhat indifferent about it. It isn't the biggest issue for me.
do you think that other baby boomers that feel indifferent will vote for it, or just?
They may not vote at all, but I think that it's one of those polarizing topics that people that do have an opinion about it typically hold an extremely strong opinion about it. So I think those people will definitely vote, and
It looks like
really,
it's gonna pass to me with the numbers here. So
I don't know, because although it's kind of the 53% versus 44%, millennials, I don't know, they seem to have a lot of indifference about elections a lot of times, and that's obviously a totally different topic, but it's like, okay,
true.
why should I even show up? I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump or for Hillary Clinton, so why would I even show up to vote? So, and believe me, my parents' generation, they're all going to show up to vote because they exercise their right to vote, so that 29% is
vote
extremely
against.
powerful. Now, will marijuana be legalized within the next 10 years throughout the United States? Probably so.
So you don't think, as a baby boomer, that this will pass in November?
I think it's a coin toss. I think it's a coin toss type of issue. I think it's got a 50% chance of passing, a 50% chance of failing, and a lot of it is going to be related to who shows up to vote for other issues. The people that are heavily polarized on this particular issue will show up and vote on it.
Yeah.
But I think that there's so much anxiety and frustration with a lot of the population right now about the two primary party candidates that even in California, it's going to be a coin toss to see what happens.
Well, I've watched an incredible documentary. It's called The Union. It's on Netflix, I believe, and some other places, but it's called The Union, and it really revolutionized my thinking. And I think one of the funniest things was Joe Rogan was talking, and he said, if you're going to be lazy, you're going to be lazy anyway. If you're going to be, a nobody, you're going to be a nobody. It doesn't matter if you smoke pot. And he said there's doctors and chemists and all these people that he knows personally that smoke every day and are still brilliant people. So,
well, I have friends that not only are brilliant people in business and science and things like that smoke pot, but also athletes. I've got a friend of mine that is an endurance athlete. He runs marathons. He does 100-mile bike rides, and he smokes pot every day. So,
wow.
To me, it's like, whatever, to each his own. I'm not an advocate of the gateway drug argument. I'm a huge advocate of legalizing marijuana for medicinal purposes and making sure that it's safe, which it should be regulated in order to make sure that that's the case. Recreational use, I'm indifferent, but the statistics will say, what it says. We'll see what happens in the election this fall, but I think it's about a 50% chance of passing right now in California. I think that in 10 years, I'll pass easily. So.
Well, I think as a millennial, it will pass in November. So we'll see what happens, but I hope that it gets regulated and legalized for all the people that do appreciate it and want the benefits of it. And I can't wait to see what happens. So let us know if you're in San Diego or California or anywhere really, if you think that it will be legalized, if you think it should be legalized, and what you think in general about it, if you think the gateway theory is a real thing or if that's just a mystery or any of these topics.
All right, terrific.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing this with me, Amanda, as always. Baby boomers versus millennials, at least on this topic, we're not in violent disagreement.
Yeah.
We have to get my parents on the show so we can get somebody that would be in violent disagreement with our opinions on this.